Most men who call themselves disciplined are performing. Think about that, not as an accusation, but as an honest question worth sitting with. Think about the way a man presents his discipline, the morning routine he posts about, the training log he keeps as public. The books are arranged just so when the camera comes out, the timestamp on the accountability post. There is nothing inherently wrong with any of those things. But there is a question underneath all of them that most men never stop to answer. If no one could see any of it, would you still do it? That question might feel uncomfortable. If it does, that discomfort is the beginning of something useful. I want to tell you about a season of my life because I think it will clarify something. I was in my mid-20s, and by most visible measures, I had figured out the discipline question. I had built the habit stacks. I was waking up before 5 a.m. consistently. I was journaling, praying, training, full morning protocol. My reading was consistent. My diet was locked in. From any external vantage point, I was a man with my life together. And for a while, I believed that story too. Then the external scaffolding fell away. The relationship I had been proving myself for, and I won't dress that up because that's exactly what I was doing, ended. Not badly, just over, the way things go over. The professional community I was embedded in shifted in ways I had no control over. The people I had been accountable to scattered, and I found myself in an apartment one evening, the full weight of my routine sitting there waiting for me. The journal open, the alarm already sounded, the day's plans sketched in the margin, and I couldn't move. Not from laziness, not from burnout. I was empty, and the emptiness didn't make sense until I finally asked the honest question, why am I doing this? The answer I found underneath the practices, when I stopped defending them and started interrogating them, was for her, for the version of me they approved of, for the image of a disciplined man I was trying to become, because I believed it would solve something in me that had always felt unsettled. I had confused structure with substance. I had mistaken the discipline for the identity, rather than understanding it as an expression of one. And when the external reasons dissolved, the discipline dissolved with them. Because without those reasons, I had built nothing underneath it. That night broke something open that needed to be broken. What I found on the other side was not that discipline doesn't matter. It's that I had fundamentally misunderstood what it was for. The men's development space, and I say this with genuine respect for the men doing real work in it, has largely commodified discipline. It has turned it into a product, a look, an aesthetic. There are entire platforms built around men demonstrating their discipline rather than inhabiting it. The cold plunge photos at 4:30 a.m., the 90-day transformation series, the perfectly stacked morning routine breakdown, the gym mirrors progress shots at consistent angles. None of this is wrong on its face. Visible structure and public accountability can be genuine tools, but when a format becomes a culture, when young men start measuring their worth by the visibility of their consistency rather than its depth, something essential disappears. What disappears is the interior life, the private practice, the work that no one will ever see and that doesn't generate content. And that is, paradoxically, the most important work a man can do. There is a hidden contract underneath most men's content. Get disciplined and you will finally be enough. Get disciplined and she'll respect you. Get disciplined and they'll take you seriously. The discipline is sold as the solution to inadequacy. And this is understandable. Men are hungry for solutions. But it is a contract that will eventually bankrupt every man who signs it. Because discipline cannot fill the void that identity, belonging, and meaning are supposed to occupy. It was never designed to do that. The culture knows this on some level, which is why it keeps escalating the challenge. The 30-day becomes 90-day becomes a year. The cold shower becomes a cold plunge becomes a polar immersion. The goalposts always move because the underlying problem is never addressed. The question of who you are and why your daily structure exists, that question is too uncomfortable to sell. So the industry keeps selling behavior modification and calling it transformation. But a man with a character question doesn't need a behavioral solution. He needs a deeper confrontation with himself. The first thing a man must understand, the foundational shift that changes everything downstream, is that discipline is not a cause. It is an expression. You are not disciplined and therefore worthy. You are grounded in something real. You understand who you are and why you're here. And discipline is one of the natural expressions of that rootedness. This distinction sounds simple. It is not easy. The man who wakes up early because he posted about waking up early will eventually sleep in, when the winter is hard enough, when the motivation dips, when the audience disappears. but the man who wakes up early because that morning hour is the 1 hour in the day that belongs entirely and privately to him, to his God, to his mind, to the slow and unglamorous work of becoming, will keep that appointment for decades. Not more willpower, not a better habit stack. His discipline is attached to identity, not performance. And identity is load-bearing in a way that performance simply cannot sustain. So the real work begins with a question most productivity systems deliberately avoid. What are you becoming? Not what are you achieving? Not what are you building? What kind of man is walking out the other side of this decade of your life? And does your daily structure actually form that man? Then comes the harder work of the internal audit. Most men, if they trace their habits with real honesty, will find that a significant portion of their so-called discipline is actually anxiety management wearing the clothes of productivity. The obsessive training regimen that keeps the depression at a distance. The non-stop consuming that makes stillness feel safe. The constant optimization that gives the mind something to fix so it doesn't have to feel what's broken underneath. These are not bad behaviors. But a man who cannot distinguish genuine self-formation from compulsive avoidance will hit the wall where the avoidance stops working and have no real interior structure left to stand on. A man who disciplines from devotion rather than performance keeps a different ledger. His reckoning is not, did I do the thing? His reckoning is, did I do the thing because of who I am or because of who I want people to think I am? He applies that question to his finances, his body, his prayer life, his choices at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday when nothing is being measured. The private man and the public man must eventually become the same man. When they're not, and most men know exactly what I mean, the gap between them produces a quiet shame that no amount of visible discipline can close. Because the one person who knows the gap exists is you, and you carry it everywhere. The final piece of this framework, and the one I would have most benefited from hearing at 22, sustainable discipline is never about intensity. It is about sequence and integration. The man who builds a practice and sustains it through seasons of low motivation, through loss, through the long, flat middle of life where nothing external is compelling him forward, that man has something different from discipline. He has character. And character is what discipline was always supposed to build. There is a verse in Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 11, that I return to more often than almost any other passage. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Trained by it, not rewarded by it, not followed because of it, trained by it, actually formed in the interior by the sustained experience of the practice. Changed in the unseen rooms of the self. The biblical understanding of discipline has never been about performance. The desert fathers who rose before dawn to pray had no audience. The monks who kept the liturgical hours through illness and grief posted nothing. The writer of Proverbs, who urges a man to guard your heart above all else, for everything you do flows from it, is not talking about self-optimization. He is talking about the interior life as the actual source of everything a man becomes. When I began to understand discipline, not as self-improvement, but as stewardship, as the care of a life that was given to me for purposes I may not fully understand, that will affect people I have not yet met, something fundamental shifted. I am not trying to become the best version of myself for an audience. I am tending to a life that belongs, ultimately, to something larger than me. The discipline becomes an act of faithfulness. The private practice becomes, in the truest sense, a form of prayer. Faith does not make discipline easy. I want to be honest about that. It doesn't. But it gives discipline somewhere to root that is deeper than emotion, deeper than motivation, deeper than the external circumstances that eventually strip away every reason we thought we had. A man with that kind of root is a different animal from a man performing strength. He bends in the hard season. He does not break. I want to leave you with one small thing. Not a challenge with a number attached. Not a sprint. This week, find one practice in your life that you have been doing primarily for external reasons. For the image, for the accountability post, for the approval of someone whose opinion matters too much to you. And do it once, completely privately. No timestamp, no post, no mention of it to anyone. Just you, the practice, and whatever you find underneath it when no one's watching. Pay attention to what you feel in that silence. If it feels hollow, that is information. If it feels different, more grounded, more yours, that is also information. What you feel is the real shape of your relationship to discipline. And wherever you are with it, that is the honest starting point. Not a failure, not a verdict, a beginning. You are not a man performing a life. You are a man building one. There is a version of you, patient, unshakable, deeply private in his devotion, that is worth every hard season required to become him. That man does not need a camera. That man does not need the external scaffolding that most of the world is leaning against. That man shows up because of who he is. That is the kind of man you are becoming.